This is it, everybody. Now, don't get scared now. That was a terrible Home Alone reference, but the fact of the matter is that today, my Trovian fans out there, we're gonna be messing around with the Revenant on the test server. Alright, now I already ended up recording a video of this guy already, but they just keep on changing him, and they've actually made him really, really good. With the first iterations of the Trove Geode update, which this update is going to be coming out June 26th, so keep that in mind, you Revenant main freaks out there, that the Revenant is going to end up becoming very, very good. Originally, he was actually, you know, they bumped up his stats and his numbers and everything, and ultimately he was still kind of poop. As of right now, he's actually a very viable character. You can main him when this update ends up going live, but for today's purposes of this video, we're most of all just going to show through example of just going into Shadow Tower and fighting some enemies and stuff like that while I explain some of the changes of his abilities. But we're not going to be talking about the full list of patch notes of all of the stats that are changing on this character, because we're going to save that for when this ends up going to the live server, because when it goes to the live server, I feel is going to be when it's not only relevant, but also this class is going through so many different changes. As I said previously, I already ended up recording a video of the Revenant and all of the changes that were coming, and then suddenly, bam, they just gave us another big change, so that made that video completely irrelevant. So we're gonna hop into a Shadow Tower. I don't seem to have any of the ultras open, which is disgusting, so give me a second here. Alright, so Merc's gonna be hopping online any minute so that he can end up opening an Ultra Tower for me, which is very gracious of him. And in the meantime, I guess I'll just mention the stats and the gear that we're actually rocking on this guy. Revenant is going to end up being either DPS or tank. You can kind of do a bit of a blend between. Oh, he's asking what tower. Ultra Dread Plox. That should be a good challenge for us, right? But we're rocking just normal, like all of my Vanguard gear I ended up swapping over to this guy. So I've got all of my Vanguard gems, which are particularly powerful. The only gem that kind of does suck, honestly speaking, is my class gem ability. It's very lackluster. It didn't even have all 3 stats at the start, but I don't really care. Most of all, this is just for testing. I'm not going to end up maining the Revenant no matter what anyways, and I thought I would take advantage of the fact that we're on the test server. So the ring that we're rocking is going to end up being for our crit hit, and then otherwise crit damage, second stat, attack speed, 4th stat is going to be the ideal you're going for. You're going to be looking for the Raptor Berserker. Well, not now. No, we're not going to be going for the Raptor Berserker. We're actually going to be going for Little Bergie, but I don't actually have him on the test server. I have him on the live server, because he's going to end up giving us the extra to our cooldown of our ultimate and stuff like that when we end up, you know, killing enemies and stuff. And then otherwise, Death Defying still pretty much mandatory, because otherwise you're gonna die a lot. Martial Emblem, and then Unyielding for us to actually go into Shadow Towers. Now, here's the thing, guys. When I say that this guy can kind of be built towards a tank, he's actually got insane amounts of lifesteal now, and I would recommend that you get maybe around 1,000,000 health if you can, and then just everything else into your raw damage. Because look at this, we're already quite damaged here, and we're healing out. Like, we didn't even take a pot yet. We're healing out of these enemies. And this is just with our basic attack here, that we've got this much life steal. So if any enemies end up hitting us over the cap amount of life that we're actually stealing here, then obviously it would be a problem. But look at that life steal. Look at him go, dude. Like, seriously, he is just an absolute powerhouse as far as that life steal is concerned. Can really end up making a huge difference. But again, of course, it's got to do with the fact that you need to get your hands on more max health, just for the simple fact that you don't want to end up fighting any enemies that are gonna one-shot you. So Hydra, for example, his acid is just going to end up one-shotting you like instantaneously, and obviously you can't heal out of something that is just going to end up killing you in one shot. And then on top of that, the big change of this class, like I said, I'll go through all of the numbers with you guys when it comes onto the live server. But as of right now, the biggest change that they finally ended up making it to this guy is that his number 1 is toggled. So you can actually toggle your number 1 on to cause random damage, and then you can also do either your basic attack or your right click. Now, another thing too that you might be wondering, why am I sitting here and why am I using my basic attack? Because it's actually your best attack. The Revenant with the Trove Geode update, his classroom ability becomes pretty much altogether useless. Like, you're just not going to end up using it at all. It's just super duper weak and uggles, because of the fact that you do roughly the same amount of damage that you do with just a normal attack. But the difference is that your normal basic attack can end up scaling off of, off of your attack speed, right? Rather than the actual ability itself. It can't actually do anything. So your right click is still going to end up doing the stacked bleeding effect, but again, you're not really going to be doing it. This is the Revenant end game here, guys. You're just going to end up toggling your number 1 on, and then you're just going to mash your basic attack until the end of time, and that's all there is to it. So you can see right here, that was a very good example of these enemies hit us too hard every now and then. Sometimes they'll just hit so hard that we end up losing a flask altogether, right? But if we ended up having enough extra health, hey, we, forget about it. You could actually be the tankiest character in the entire game. Now, that said, it is still extremely difficult. Nay, I don't know if it's even possible. No, I'm not a horse. I don't know if it's even possible to solo Ultra Dread with this guy. Merc and I ended up duoing him, and we ended up getting pretty close. We got him pretty much all the way to the end. And another thing too that I kind of realized, which is a little bit like, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? But it's like, if we consider the gameplay that we're doing right here and consider the fact that they made the Revenant viable again for the end game and Ultra Towers and everything like that, right? And it's like, what did they end up doing? They ended up making it so that we could spam one attack and spam another one at the same time. We are essentially doing the exact same thing that a Draco does in Ultra Towers, where we've got one thing constantly going, our fire stream as the Draco, and then our other basic attack pretty much ends up acting as all of your little Draco babies. So essentially it's the exact same gameplay. It's just which character do you want to actually play as, you know what I mean? So again, I don't know if anybody is going to end up going out of their way to main the Revenant now. I think most of all, this is just going to end up making the character a lot more viable for those of you that already wanted to main this character. And we're just having a tough time doing so, because personally speaking, he is still not my favorite character in the least. I will probably swap all my gems over to him when we get him on the live server, just to see what he's like. Just to see the final build and let you guys know about it, right? But in the end, am I going to end up maining the Rev after this? No, because personally, he's never really been a favorite of mine. There's just something about him where it's just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, maybe if I was using my Overwatch mod where he's Reinhardt, I actually really like him when he's like that, because then he actually looks really, really cool. Or my Shovel Knight mod, which I'm not trying to talk about mods here, console players, but I'm just saying in general, it's like there's something about the style of this character that I don't particularly care for. Now, if we're gonna be talking about U9 for this guy, that's where again, I would kind of just say you don't want to necessarily main him, because while they ended up making your number 1 toggled, and they also did end up making it so that you can end up moving a little bit faster while your number 1 is going off rather than being super duper slow, it's not really like, you're not going to be using this guy for speed farming. Like, he's really, really slow. So let me actually just talk to Merc here for a second, and then we'll just try and duo through this, just so I can show you the true power of 2 fairly powerful Revenants, which Merc's actually a little bit stronger than me, because he ended up getting a perfect class gem. Again, mine is absolute poop. Not to mention the fact that it didn't end up, rolling with good stats and doesn't have that much PR or anything like that. Like, you can be a lot stronger. Also, originally, they didn't end up having the video effects for the Chaos costume for the Revenant working on the test server. Now they finally do have it working, as you saw with the nice green souls that Merc was stealing, which is absolutely beautiful. But you can see right here, we're doing considerable damage. Like, you can end up duoing most of the Shadow Towers. Obviously, you're not going to end up doing particularly well against, Hydra is the biggest thing. Like, as soon as you get to Hydra, suddenly it's just like, oh, if you're not a ranged character, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. Even a Draco, it's like, you can't really solo Hydra, even when you're using the Draco and you have such vast amount of damage numbers. Gunslinger just does it better because he's a ranged character. Now, Draco is one of the few characters that can actually solo Ultra Dread, yes, but you have to have absurd stats, and not to mention you have to have Cubic Curtain and everything just has to line up perfectly, right? Whereas with the Revenant, Merc and I ended up getting pretty close to defeating him, like I said. I'll try and remember to insert some footage of us actually fighting him. And you can see we got him pretty close to death. Outside of the fact that we just weren't really, like, I don't know, we didn't really have enough flasks to survive the battle. I think most of all because we're on the test server, so Patron isn't working. But if we didn't end up having those extra flasks, I'm confident that we would have been able to duo Dread. But that's the whole thing, is it's like, do you want to end up taking Revenant as the character that ends up duoing Dread, or would you rather just take Draco, where you could solo Dread, or you could just do the exact same thing but with 2 Dracos, and you would end up being faster. That's kind of the whole argument that I always have about those crazy people of you out there, the crazies of you out there that want to like go hardcore, go to the end game and just be like, I don't care, I just want something that's efficient. Like, for example, I love the Vanguard. I think that he's an amazing class and I have a lot of fun with him, but he kind of sucks in Shadow Towers compared to a lot of other characters that just end up out damaging him and doing a little bit better than him, right? So other than that, you know, like the Revenant you can't end up using in U9, but you are going to be able to use it in Shadow Tower. So you know, my biggest argument to anybody that's just getting into this game, or even at the mid tier, or even if you're at the end game, it doesn't really matter. Play the character that you enjoy, because otherwise you're not going to end up having fun with this game. That's the biggest pro tip that I can give you guys, like, seriously. But anyways, I guess we'll do a little bit of a fight here on the Ultra Dread, just so I can show you guys what our damage numbers are going to end up being with the boss health bar up at the top. But I don't think we have enough time. Nay, I don't want to. There I go with the nay again. I'm doing a pun on myself here. I don't think we're going to end up having enough time to completely fight this guy, because seriously, it's going to end up taking an absurd amount of time. I should have popped a flash just so we got more damage. By the way, pretty much the only real pro tips that I can end up giving you is, while you're in this mode, you gotta consider the fact that the Revenant doesn't actually use energy. He uses health to use his abilities. So you can just be jumping in the air like a freak to dodge a lot of the fire on the ground with the Dread, which we weren't considering the first time we were fighting him, and that could make the fight a little bit easier. But then on top of it, you can also dodge while you're still have your number 1 toggled on. So you gotta consider that when the Dread is doing like crazy weird moves that are all up close and personal, because you're moving at such an absurdly slow pace that you're probably not going to be able to get out of the way, you know, like that foot stomp right there, for example. But sometimes you can see, like, we're not actually stealing any life from him, because his hitbox gets all weird sometimes. I don't know why. But you can see we're stealing, like, what was that? Like 23,000 health per second or something? Or was that per tick? I don't know. It's just kind of going like crazy. So we've got, you know, our number 1 is doing crazy damage. And again, as you saw right there, we ended up taking damage from him, yes, but we didn't take lethal damage. So we were able to actually heal out. And Merc and I are actually doing pretty good. I'd say we're doing a pretty decent time here, honestly speaking, considering that we're just Revenant, you know. So maybe we will have enough time to actually get through this, but I don't know, dude. It depends. Like, we gotta kind of get really lucky with with whether or not he ends up nuking us at the end. So I don't know. I guess we'll save that for next time, guys. I just want to say thank you for watching. Hopefully you're as excited about this update in general as I am. Like the Trove Geode update, it's got a lot of things that are uggles about it, but it's got a lot of things that are getting better about it. You know, like the Trove Geode update was pretty much trash. Well, I don't want to say trash, but there was a lot of criticisms that we had about it when it was on the test server, and they've actually been remedying a lot of it, including the Revenant. Like, I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that they ended up making him viable, because up to this point, again, you know, the original version that we had come out with this guy was just like, he was better, but he was only okay. Now this is something that you can actually use end game. Thanks for watching. Very much appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. And if you want to support me, you can always sponsor my YouTube channel and check links in the description for my merch store, where you can buy this shirt and a bunch of other stuff, as well as Gawkbox, which is a way that you can donate to me for free. Sign on, stay epic, everybody.